In today's class, we're going to study about the concept of segmentation, target marketing, and positioning. However, we'll concentrate only on segmentation for this video, and in the subsequent videos, we'll look at target marketing and positioning. Market segmentation. The entire basis for market segmentation is completely lies on the notion that a marketer cannot target the entire market segment at one go, or an entire market area. That's virtually impossible to target every consumer in a particular area or in a particular location. The basis for segmentation lies in the fact that every consumer is different and every product is different. So dividing a market into smaller segments with distinct needs, characteristics, and behavior that might require separate marketing strategies or mixes. A segmentation can happen only on one basis. It can happen on the basis that if a market is divisible into different homogeneous groups, but even before that, we need to understand that if a market is heterogeneous, when I mean heterogeneous, what I mean to say is it has people with different characteristics and different behavioral, different interests, uh, different personalities, different lifestyles, or overall, there is a lot of differences in an entire market. This entire market can be grouped together separately into different groups or into different segments of similar characteristics, of similar nature, of similar needs. So, then dividing an entire market or an entire heterogeneous market into smaller groups of similar segments is what segmentation is all about. But why do we do this? So that we can effectively boil down in trying to customize our marketing efforts so that we can effectively target each of these segments. In concept, this entire marketing boils down to primarily two questions. Which customers will we serve and how will we serve them? Which customers? This question will definitely be answered by the entire segmentation process. If we do it correctly, then which customers will we serve will already be answered. How will we serve them is something which becomes even more apparent in the current world, is because how goes back to the idea that the firm also has to look at its own strengths and weaknesses. Of course, there is a segment out there. I can divide a market and I can say, let's take an example of automobile market. Now we all know about Maruti being a value for money segment, a segment which always tries to look at economy as the basis of segmentation, and people prefer Maruti because of the economic reliability on the um, company as well as the after sales service of the company. If Maruti has to, the entire market may be having people who are willing to buy value for money cars, but also people willing to buy luxury cars. Maruti already has built a name in itself for value for money. If it tries to enter the segment, there is a segment for luxury cars, and if it's trying to enter that segment and trying to target people with luxury, will it work? Well, it won't, because that is not the company's strength. So how will we serve them is also a question going back a step and trying to understand, are we in a position to serve them? Do we have those strengths? Will us trying to define us into that segment, will it work? And if the answer to that question is yes, then we go further into looking at the next steps about targeting and positioning. So essentially, STP, we need to understand this very clearly. at the beginning of this entire process of understanding STP, segmentation, targeting and positioning, they all are interlinked. If we do our segmentation well, we can go about doing our targeting well, and subsequently we can define a value proposition for our product. So segmentation groups customers based on similar needs. Now, not just customers, understand this, we are looking at customer based segmentation, but our products, or we might also go back saying, this is my product which I have to offer, and then I may look at what is the customer segment which is going to buy this product. It can also happen the other way around. Then we try to profile each segment. We'll see what profiling means. That profiling is nothing but forms the basis of each segment. Profiling based on demographics, based on income, age, lifestyle, which we will look at in the coming slide. Targeting is nothing but trying to assess, if we have done this step correctly, segmentation, then it's trying to assess the attractiveness of each segment. And how do we assess the attractiveness? There are some parameters, we'll look at that later. And then we select a particular segment that we want to target. Positioning is after we have selected a particular target that we want to highlight, we want to target, we try to define our brand proposition. What does our brand really stand for within that target segment, and accordingly build a marketing strategy or a marketing plan to be able to target that particular segment. From a definition standpoint, what I happened to explain earlier, market segmentation is subdividing of a market into homogeneous subsets of consumers where any subset may conceivably be selected as a market target to be reached with a distinct marketing mix. Distinct marketing mix, what I mean by that is this basically goes towards your last step of your STP where it comes to positioning, where you're talking about your 4Ps. If I've divided my market well, I'll target that market, and I will target it based on the different 4Ps which I will try to talk about later once I have my segment in place. Why does an organization really do this? What is the benefit of segmentation to an organization? Number one, it's able to better service customers, allows firms to compete more effectively, allows firms to actually tailor a marketing mix to a well-defined target segment. We're able to get distinctive groups of customers within the entire area. This helps for a marketer, for an organization to meet the needs of the customer more efficiently, which is the primary goal of any organization. The benefits to a customer. From a customer's perspective, we are able to get, our time is saved. Basically, it's more convenient for us to get products which are more tailored to us. Services much more tailored, much more personalized, much more experience in terms of getting offers that are relevant to us is something that a customer basically looks at, and that is all possible if a segmentation has been done well, and accordingly the organization is able to tailor all the elements of the marketing mix well to a customer. Then the customer is actually benefited out of this entire process. To be able to define the entire segmentation into two buckets which are driving the entire basis of segmentation, the benefits of segmentation, is from an organizational perspective, it is about achieving sustainable, profitable growth, and from a customer perspective, about getting compelling customer experience, and that is the entire driving area towards which we are moving these days. The benefits to an organization: identification of unfulfilled needs, something that we would not have thought of in the first place. In the beginning, we go with an idea that, okay, these are the areas on which I'm going to be able to target my segment, and I go with that idea. But what happens in the process, I realize that there is a segment which I have not been able to target, or there is a segment which is completely new. And this has happened in the past. I'll give you examples of how that has happened. For example, Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, they came up. Mercedes-Benz, by the way, is known for their luxury cars. Everybody is aware of it. They came up into this recently. They got into themselves into the EV market. Okay, the electric vehicle market, and they priced it again. It's a luxury car, but they were trying to enter a new segment. They weren't aware. It's more like, of course, electric vehicles are going to be the thing of the future. People will move slowly in the next 5 years, next 10 years. All we are going to hear about is every manufacturer moving in that segment, but not every manufacturer will aggressively move into that segment. It will take time. Once the customer adoption increases, they'll start moving into that segment. What Mercedes did, they moved into the electric vehicle segment, and to their disbelief, all the customers actually booked the entire lot which they had manufactured. They just marketed saying we have moved into the EV segment, we have come up with an EV car, and everything was overbooked. So they realized that there is an unfulfilled need which they were able to cater to in trying to come up with a different segment. Which there was a need, there was EV, but they moved into that segment. They moved into a new segment. And with this, they're able to produce a better product design, able to make more targeted promotion and increase customer satisfaction or higher adaptability from a customer perspective. What is the benefit to the customer? Convenience, time savings. We have looked at all of this in the earlier slide. But the idea is they thought a new segment was created which was not there before for a company which wasn't in that segment. So it creates a compelling customer experience. Now, the entire segmentation works on two levels. One is there is a consumer market on which we can try do segmentation, and one is the business market. And segmentation works differently for each of these markets, where the end consumer is either businesses or general consumers like you and me. The basis for consumer market segmentation are the following, and the business market segmentation are also the following as highlighted in this slide. When it comes to consumer market, we're looking at geographic, demographic, psychographic, behavioral, as well as benefit sort. We'll look at each of this also in the coming slides. We'll talk about consumer before we move into the business market, because business market works a little differently. Geographic segmentation, country, region, city is very self-explanatory. Based on different regions, different countries, we're going to have segmentation. When we talk about the urban and rural uh, products, let's say Horlicks has a product. Of course, the example I'm taking is not a very successful product example. But that's the first thing that has come to my mind. Horlicks is a product which is mostly consumed in the urban market. But what they tried to do, Horlicks also tried to come up with a product for the rural market. They called it Horlicks Asha. And Horlicks Asha is a product which was targeted at rural women consumers. Although it was not a very successful product, they had not tailored their promotional strategies accordingly. But the idea is that for a rural consumer, every brand will try to come up with a product, maybe a different product or maybe a variation of the existing product. So these are geographical segmentation. Climate. When you talk about climate, we're talking about coolers, we're talking about air conditioners. You're not going to basically sell coolers in a place like Kashmir. In a place where it is always cold, you're not going to you're not going to market air coolers. You're probably going to basically try to market heaters out there. So, based on your climatic conditions, you're going to try to market different products and different variations of the product. Demographics, age. When we talk about age, if we look at baby products, Pampers does this very well. Pampers tries to segment even within the babies. They have 0 to 9 months, then you have 1 year old to 24 months, and then you have 24 months to let's say up to one particular category. I don't know the exact number, but they have multiple categories within the baby segment, within the kids segment, and different products for that segment, different diapers for that segment, and different additional products that come along with the diapers, probably baby wipes, etc. Very well targeted and segments within the age category. The other thing that you can think of in terms of age is also when it comes to life insurance product. Insurance products are divided by age. Based on different age category, the insurance products also vary. Income. Variability of income also matters when you're talking about either premium segment or economy segment. We're talking about income. Gender variability is there in almost everything, whether you have male cosmetic products or female cosmetic products, male, when you talk about male uh, clothing, female clothing, and within that you can come up with a subcategorization based on the other consumer market segments we'll talk about. Marital status. Marital status actually is something which is very well targeted these days. If you are a married couple, there's a new product in the market by banks where they target home loans for young married couples. So, very well thought product, because they realize when somebody gets married, the expenses are going to slowly start increasing, and it's not going to remain the same as it was before. So, there was home loans for every other situation. So, but for young married couples, the home loan, this is not about loan for marriage. This is not, there is a personal loan. Personal loan is there for every other occasion in your in it could be any other occasion, any occasion that you want to take care of. There was home loans, there was personal loans, there was the student educational loans. Marital status, based on whether you're unmarried or married, there's a very beautiful product by certain banks that have come up with this new concept. Family size. Based on family size, you're a nuclear family, or you're a, or you are, or you are basically separate. I don't know, getting the terminology for families which or joint families. Based on that, you can have separate products being targeted for this. Occupational status, education level, ethnicity, religion, all these are the different demographical categorizations, and even more. Even when I say even more, we'll look at that in the next slide too. Psychographics, based on person's lifestyle, personality, activities, interests, and his opinions. Lifestyle. A very popular product that I can think of in terms of lifestyle is the cigarette brand. When it comes to Marlboros, they try to target a particular. It was a very popular product, by the way, which I talk about this product specifically, though I don't endorse smoking. But this particular product, because they actually made a profit targeting the lifestyle. They came up with a product which tried to basically target the macho appeal, or the entire appeal of being this cowboy look of that entire man, the manly look. They tried to target that and became quite a big hit, and it is one of the most profitable cigarette products. Behavioral. When we talk about behavioral, we're looking at the usage rate, loyalty, product knowledge, involvement, purchase occasion, buying stage. We'll look at behavioral as well as psychographics in more detail in the coming slides. But just to give you an idea, let's talk about usage rate. We look at usage rate, we're talking about, let's say shampoo is the best example. I may be a person who uses shampoo daily. I can be a person who uses shampoo on a weekly basis, or maybe I'm a person who does not use shampoo very regularly or a fortnightly basis. Maybe I use some other products during that time. And based on that, I will divide my customers. And for a heavy customer, I'll say heavy customer, moderate customer, low usage customer. Maybe a daily usage person is a heavy customer. And for a person who's a heavy customer, I would want to target this person more often, because definitely my sales is going to be more. He's going to be buying it more often because he's going to be using it more often. And for a daily user, I would want to target him with a shampoo, something like this. Maybe a shampoo which is non-damaging shampoo, chemical free, non damaging, daily use shampoo. If I come up with a product like that, it is going to appeal to this user who's a daily user, a segment, behavioral segment user who is going definitely would like to basically buy this product. The value proposition, this part what I'm talking about is the value proposition of the product. Non-damaging, daily use, chemical-free shampoo. It's definitely going to appeal to this particular segment audience. When you talk about benefit sort, looking at convenience, value, safety, and status. Let's look at safety. Safety, let's take the example of Volvo as a bus. Volvos are known for their safety aspect. When you talk about Tata vehicles are known for their safety aspect. There is this NCAP crash test that they have to go through. So in that NCAP crash test, NCAP that is, Tata Nexon, and I think Tata, it's not Tata Nexon, it was Tata, one of the Tata hatchbacks got a nearly a 4 star rating out of 5 as far as the accident safety crash test is concerned. But Maruti cars actually got very low rating on this particular aspect, and some of the Maruti cars. So safety, if I want to look at safety when it comes to buying a car product, when it comes to buying a hatchback, I would go for Tata products because I know that they can withstand a crash to certain extent as defined by the NCAP crash standards. When it comes to the business markets, the segmentation varies. Geographic remains the same, but what instead of the demographics, there's something else that defines the business market. It is nothing but the firmographics. Firmographics talks everything about the industry vertical. When I say industry, it could be the telecom industry, it could be the automobile industry, it could be any industry that I'm basically trying to target. And within this industry segment, what is the firm size? How large is the firm? It's a large scale firm. Is it a is it an MNC? Is it a small scale firm? Is it a startup? What am I looking at? Is it a global? Is it a firm that has global presence or only regional presence? And what is the kind of ownership? What is the kind of firm? Am I talking about public-private ownership? Am I talking about sole proprietorship? What am I really talking about when it comes to firmographics? And the buying approach. Buying approach, you need to understand that when it comes to firm, the decisions are not made by a single person. When it comes to consumer markets, it's easy to target an individual customer because customer preferences vary. But when it comes to a business market, you need to understand the buying approach. The decisions are made by a group of people. It's very centralized decision making, so it's not easy to come up with a value proposition, to come up with a product for a business market and basically talk to any one person. You need to talk to a group of people. It's kind of an entire board of directors who makes a decision, and they will have their own purchase policies and the involvement of there could be other decision makers, other stakeholders who are part of that particular firm who take up a decision. And behavioral, their purchase frequency may not be as great as how I spoke about the shampoo usage rate, right? They might not be people who buy on a daily basis, and the volume of purchase may be very low, but it could be a very high price product when it comes to benefits, right? It could be a very high price product. Purchase frequency could be low. An attitude toward risk, yes, they are more risk oriented. They do not want to be taking a lot of risk. The risk potential is actually low in other sense, and they are more loyal customers. If you are, and they always, the sense of urgency may or may not be based on the business situation that they are in right now. So sometimes you might come up with urgency tactics in while selling certain things to a consumer, while saying, 2 days, within 2 days, the product is going to get over, 3 days, if you buy this product, else the offer is going to get over, buy soon. You might come up with some of those, marketing tactics that we call, but you cannot do that with a business consumer. He does not have a sense of urgency. He has all the time in the world because it's about buying a very low volume. Is not buying in volumes. He's buying a very high priced product, and he's going to take his time in deciding. But once he buys your product, he's going to be a loyal customer. Is the loyalty is going to be high. When it comes to benefit sort, we talk about in terms of price, product quality has to be really high, and there'll be a relationship as well. Service is going to be long term. He expects a long term relationship. He expects a very good service being provided to him. So business markets works very differently to a consumer market. And let's take an example. For example, take a rubber manufacturing firm, rubber tire manufacturing firm. Now, I may sell it to a tractor company. I may sell it to Maruti, who's into purely into automobiles. I may sell it to bus company. I may sell it to anything, but I'm just a tire manufacturer, right? I may sell it to any of these companies, but I have to decide based on the industry, based on the firm size. Accordingly, my target business person will vary, and accordingly, my value proposition to each of these will vary according to the kind of business consumer that I am targeting. So it becomes a little tricky. It's not as easy as consumer markets. Just go in there and try all your tactics out there. It's going to be very professional, very formal, and you have more often than not, you have consultants, you have key people who take these decisions, who actually, your marketers are key consultants, professionals who are very good in their business, are very good at what they do, sales professionals who are very good at what they do, not easy to sell it to a business market. For your knowledge, I have actually divided, there's this major segmentation variables for business markets, which is by Philip Kotler, very well defined. Each of the variables, uh, different situational factors, purchasing approaches, operating variables, demographic and personal characteristics, all of this very clearly defined. Go through it. Different questions that one needs to answer, and it's more like a chart for you. If you are trying to approach a business, these are the questions that you have to ask yourself. If I'm looking at any of these variables, let me pick up any variable. I'm looking at technology. What customer technology should we focus on? If I'm looking at customer capability, should we serve customers needing many of your services? Anything that I have to offer, these segmentation variables for business markets, these questions, if we're able to answer these questions, then I could accordingly answer to each of these questions is going to give me an idea to which business consumer am I going to be targeting. Talking about the consumer markets again, I can also define same ones which have been defined earlier. I can also look at behavioral, which I'm going to talk about behavioral and psychographic more specifically. Geographic and demographic is very something I've already spoken about, and it's very self-explanatory. But let's talk about behavioral and psychographic, and something in demographic I want to specifically touch upon is the family life cycle. Touch upon that in the next slide. And in psychographic and behavioral, we'll look at all of these that I mentioned under behavioral and psychographic in the coming slides. Family life cycle, uh, marketers tend to define the entire family life cycle. This is one of the ways they define it. Okay, so it's not the way. When I talk about the stage 1 to stage 6, it is one of the ways they define. Childhood can be one. Stage 1, stage 2, bachelorhood or unmarried. Stage 3, honeymooners or young married couple. Remember, I explained to you that young married couples can be targeted with a home loan banking product. Stage 4, parenthood, couple with children and couple with grown-up children. Again, dividing them based on the family life cycle. Stage 5, post-parenthood, older married couple with children living away from parents due to job or marriage of sons and daughters. They are living away. So, these people are a separate people. You know that they are living older married couple. So, you can have a product targeting them. And I'm not able to think of a product right now, but I do know that there are products which are targeting people like this. Stage 6, dissolution, one of the partners is dead. So, when your partner is dead, you are alone. How do you take care of yourself? There are a lot of, I can only think of financial products when it comes to this. There are a lot of financial products which target at such people above 60, above 70 years old, senior citizens who are single senior citizens who are living alone, not with their parents. They also have certain products specifically targeted for them. So, family life cycle allows you to, uh, on a broad basis, allows you to define categorization or segmentation. But on a more well defined, or to make that broad based into a narrow based definition, we go into the behavioral segmentation, because this is what is more important in today's world, the behavioral as well as the psychographic. We look at that, and you need to understand segmentation is not always one group. Of course, it can be one group. When it comes to big products, we talk about automobiles, we talk about all of that, it's one big product. But you can still come down into behaviors of each people, and you can combine two or three segmentation bases to come up with a very niche product. Attitude, we can look at attitude, whether it's positive attitude, negative attitude. So based on that, whether somebody is hostile, fashionable. Liquor and cigarette, etc., are used by negative consumers. It's one way of looking at it. Product segmentation, market segmentation based on the product characteristics that are capable of satisfying certain special needs of customers. Prestige products, automobiles, clothing, home furnishing. Maturity products, you definitely are not going to make use of a razor if you are somebody who's still a teenager. Of course, some teenagers do have do develop beards at a much earlier age, but you're going to look at people only once you're matured. You're going to look at things like razors. Status product, most of the luxury products. Put all your luxury products in this category, whether it is any of the other verticals. Anxiety products, medicines, insurance products also will fall under your anxiety. Certain soaps. Why is soap here? You would be wondering, why is soap here? Not all category of soaps. Probably soaps which are people who have skin allergies. People, there are certain soaps only for skin allergy. Those products would come under anxiety products. And these days, I would say this is doing well. And uh, one particular brand, always very difficult. I'm always not able to recollect this particular brand's name, which try to target HUL. Uh, Let me see. I'm not able to recollect it at this point. Which try to talk about the pH factor or the pH value of a soap, and said we have the lowest pH value, and please purchase our products because we are less pH value. Of course, there are things like body soap, body shop. I'm sorry, which produces soaps which are organic, which tend to be organic, which claim to be organic, and have very good fragrance. So people go for that. Again, this is anxiety because you are thinking about your skin. You don't want your skin. You want your skin to be supple. You want your skin to be soft. You want your skin not to be affected by these chemicals. And then there are functional products, fruits, vegetables. So you can categorize based on product. You can categorize based on the benefits sought. We looked at some of the benefits sought earlier when I spoke about in one of the earlier slides. Here they're looking at very generic, looking at cleaning, looking at secondary level, breath freshening, brightness. We're talking about toothpaste itself. Let's look at one product. And looking at toothpaste, everybody wants to just brush their teeth, keep their teeth clean. That's it. That's one of your primary goals too when it comes to your benefits about your particular product. But if I'm going beyond your generic provision, I want to give you something like breath fresheners. I can think of Close Up, which came up with this concept much earlier. They came up with all these different colors. Earlier, we only knew of certain colors. When it came to Promise or Colgate, we only had this white color. But Close Up came up with multicolored toothpaste, which each color tried to tell you that this is used for a certain kind of breath freshener. And there were different ads which came up with that. People walking in, people in the lift, and people in the bus or in public, when his breath is actually smelling, though he has cleaned. I mean, it's cleaned away from all your germs, but still your breath is not freshened up. Then you have brightness, where it talks about whitening of your teeth. uh, and then you have gum protection. So different evolved utilities beyond your generic utility or generic product utility, which is nothing but cleaning your teeth. That's it. But if you go beyond that, you can take your entire mouth as one example and just take your teeth. You can look at all the problems that's faced there. Germ is a problem, whitening is a problem, gums are a problem. You never know. There could be some other problem somebody might just come up with and say this is a problem which you are not aware of, and none of the toothpaste were doing this, but our toothpaste does this. People come up with RDA approved. People talk about having doctors in your ad, telling verification, saying purchase our product because it is doctor verified. It works. I mean, all these strategies people try, it does work. That's why they try it. Volume segmentation. The market is segmented on the basis of volume or quality of purchase. Buyers, we looked at this in terms of, this is also talks about your usage rate. People, bulk buyers, moderate buyers, small buyers. I talked about heavy usage, low usage, moderate usage. Loyalty, again, you think of loyalty as a person who will come back to me and purchase from me, but there are different ways loyalty is also defined. People who are hardcore loyals, softcore loyals, shifting loyals, switchers, and consumer innovators. I would leave this to you to read because this becomes a little confusing. This is how marketers define them, and not this may not be the generic base of or you say segmentation, but the idea for me to put this here in terms in front of you is to understand that loyalty also can be divided, that being saying these are hardcore loyals, these are softcore loyals, people who are shifting loyals, people who are switchers. A definition for each is this also has been given as to why people are called switchers, why people are called shifting loyals, and who are consumer innovators who like to go for new products in the market as and when there are newer features coming in the market. They are innovators, but they are also loyal. They may come back to your product at some point in time. So it gets a little confusing when you look at the definition, the sub definition of each of these loyalty segments. Psychographic segmentation, lifestyle. I remember explaining to you about lifestyle in terms of cigarettes, but let's look at the example given here. For example, lifestyle of a college student is different from that of an ordinary worker. Yes, definitely. If you're targeting a college-going student, is definitely from different from ordinary worker. I can think of somebody who's done this very well in terms of lifestyle for college students is Fast Track. Their products are mostly targeted as your lifestyle in terms of your college bags, in terms of your watches. It's very college-going students which are being targeted based on their lifestyle. Personality, again, it talks about more about uh, your different personality characteristics that you have studied in OB, whether it's an active person, passive, rational, impulsive, creative, introvert, extrovert. Now, Raymond has a very beautiful advertisement which says Raymond's the complete man. It's targeting that professional person who likes to look savvy, who likes to look savvy at all points in time. On the base of social class. Now, social class, I can say somebody is of the upper class, middle class, lower class. Now, this is again determined by income, occupation, education. I might define this based on my definition of income levels. I might say people earning beyond 5 lakhs per annum falls in what do you say, middle class, below 5 lakhs per annum falls in lower class, above 15 lakhs per annum falls in upper class. And based on that, I might define and I might have a product targeting each of these income segments, each of these definition based on the income or based on the occupation that they are currently doing. Maybe people who are into the tech industry, people who are into automobile industry. Within that also I can define education level. Person who's done masters and above may be defined differently. Person who's done only undergraduate and below is defined differently. And it's true, actually. There are products based on this, and the psychographic is completely, the basis of psychographic is completely on that. Let's look at an example for Mitsubishi, which is a car company. And here, the entire, their segmentation. Okay, now this is theirs. Okay. We do have your usual segmentation of automobiles as hatchbacks, sedans, what do you say, SUVs, and micro SUVs, mini SUVs. Sorry, I don't know if there's micro. Yes, there's mini SUVs, there's sub, then there is MUVs, multi-utility vehicles. There are all these standard definitions, and all of these, most of these car manufacturers fall into some of these segments. Looking at Maruti, has Maruti Swift as a hatchback, and then it has Ertiga as MUV. It has Brezza as subcompact SUV. It has in a sedan. It has oh, it does not have any sedan. It had one sedan. It came up with as of now. Oh yeah, it does. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Is Swift Desire as a sedan that falls under the sedan category. So market segments for Mitsubishi, how Mitsubishi has defined, for example, micro and compact car, family car, off-road SUV, sports car, premium car, business cars, and trucks, and they are entire product models in these segments. These are the micro and compact cars, which is visible here, which is for Mitsubishi. Family car, off-road, and SUVs. Premium and sports cars. Now, these premium cars could be like you see on top there. There's convertible, non-convertible right on top. The maroon one actually has you can actually take the top roof off, so it could be a convertible. Business cars and trucks defined accordingly. Again, here these calls can also be defined in terms of the volume of capacity that they carry. Specifically, these Mahindra defines them accordingly based on the load carrying capacity of the vehicles. Again, whether it's an ambulance, police cars, school service, yes, Mercedes, what do you say, Mitsubishi does produce all this also. And their segmentation basis by region of the world, Mitsubishi cars have different versions. Obviously, when they're coming up with India, they'll have a different version. Based on genders, young at heart, a diverse audience, male, female, age under 40 years old, income, different cars for different range of income level, and lifestyle, different cars that cater to a person's lifestyle. So that's all we have for today's video as far as segmentation is concerned. In the next video, we'll meet up and we'll look at targeting and the entire basis for how targeting is done for the segments which we have already looked at.